Have you ever wondered, is there a movie out there where a serial killer is stalking people on Valentine's Day, people who are in love, couples, married people, etc., uh, who's now been doing so for several years in a row, different cities across the country, and ends up targeting a couple that's not really a couple in a movie that is both quite gruesome at a couple points, but also with enough comedy that it's almost a comedy, but not quite. Well, if you've been looking for such a movie, you are in luck, because today we're going to talk about the movie Heart Eyes. This is the Geek Cabal channel. If you've not been here before, my name is Bobbie, and today we're going to be talking about the 2025 horror movie Heart Eyes. As I said, this movie does have a fair amount of comedy, not slapstick, just jokes and comments about the situation characters find themselves in. Enough to keep the movie from being overbearingly serious. So this is not like, say, Halloween, which is a strict, serious horror movie. This is definitely like, you're supposed to get some chuckles out of this. So, trying to think of a good horror movie to compare this to. I'm sure one will come to me. So, anyway, this movie came out in theaters earlier this year. I caught it on Netflix a couple days ago. So, if you have Netflix, check it out. If there are anything on Amazon to be found for affiliate links, I'll put them in there. I don't know if this is out on physical video yet, because like I said, this was just out just a few months ago in theaters. So if there are, I'll put them in. If you're seeing this somewhere after early June of 2025 and they have finally made it on there, I try to go back every couple months and check older things I've done and put in affiliate links if they're relevant then. Because I do movie reviews like while movies are still in theaters, and obviously there's nothing to link to at that point. So if you are looking for physical copies and want to do us a solid, we always appreciate it. If not, that's entirely your choice. Not going to try to pressure you into it. So anyway, who's in this movie? Well, our main character, Allie, is played by Olivia Holt. Now, she was in the movie Totally Killer, which I believe I did a video on, or I talked about it on one of the podcasts. I thought that was a very entertaining movie. In fact, that's a decent movie to compare it to. It has enough comedy that it's not a completely serious horror movie, but it's also not like off the deep end in like scary movie territory where it's a slapstick comedy that happens to have some horror elements. It's a lot closer to the horror than the comedy, but it's enough that it makes for an entertaining combination. Totally Killer was pretty good too. So there she plays the younger version of the main character's mom. She is also Dagger of the Marvel characters Cloak and Dagger in a few different shows. There was a Cloak and Dagger series that I did not watch, and a few others where she reprised the role. Then we have Mason Gooding, like Gouding, Gooding, I don't know. He plays Jay. He is the person who appears to be Allie's love interest to certain other characters. He's the main things I've seen him in are Scream 5 and 6, where he plays Chad Martin, who I had to look up who that was because I've only watched Scream 5 and 6 like once or twice. I've watched the first three several times, and then there was like a decade and a half between 3 and 4, and that's when I watched the first three several times, and the more recent ones just haven't been out long enough for me to watch them a lot. He has a sister. I don't know if she's supposed to be a twin or not, but they're both in the movies. That's literally all I remember about him, though. Then we have Devon Sawa, who, for those of you around my age, by the way, he plays a detective named Hobbs. It's going to be relevant here in a moment. He was the main character in Idle Hands and Final Destination, the first one. For those of you around my age, that's probably what you've seen him in. He's in other movies, obviously, but I didn't even recognize him because these movies came out getting close to 30 years ago. So He has definitely aged since then. Haven't we all, though? And then finally, rounding out the people I've seen elsewhere is Jordana Brewster, who plays Shaw, also a detective. Yes, there are a pair of detectives named Hobbs and Shaw, one of whom is in several of the Fast and Furious movies, of which there's a branch of the franchise called Hobbs and Shaw. And someone in this movie does, in fact, like ask them, "You mean like the movie characters?" So, yeah, it's totally like some kind of weird self-referential joke kind of thing. There she plays Mia, who is the woman that Brian, who was Paul Walker's character, it's his love interest, so Dom's sister. And then she's also in The Faculty. Quite a while since I've seen that movie. I don't remember exactly who she played there. Obviously, one of the students, given her age and everything. But I don't remember what her deal was. So, which I should, because I saw that movie like 3 times in theaters. Whole backstory to that, I'll tell it sometime if I haven't already. I think I have one here, but it's not relevant right now. So, this is a fairly new movie, so I'm not going to go heavily into spoilers here. Definitely not going to tell you who the killer is or anything. So, like I said, the movie overall has a lot of levity to it, but some of the kills are also really gruesome, and so it's one of those situations where you don't know if you're supposed to be like worried, because like the violence, or if you're supposed to be laughing. I tend to fall in the laughing into that category, but that's just me because I'm desensitized to violence from having been watching horror movies for 4 decades. Well, 3 decades, I suppose, 3.5, somewhere in there. But anyway, so our main character, Allie, she is getting over a breakup, and she runs into Jay in a coffee shop. Never met him before. They've got the same order, and her girlfriend is with her. It's like, oh, you should, it's cosmic destiny. Like, you got the same, order, and he's really handsome. Like, ask him out. And she's like, no, I'm still getting over the breakup, and so then so she blows him off because he's trying to put the moves on her because she's pretty, he's nice, why not? And sees the end of the whole coffee order thing. So she blows him off, and she works for, I don't remember if it's a jewelry company or a perfume company, but it's something related to that kind of field where they have a Valentine's Day event that they're planning, like a sales event. And she's one of the people that helps try to coordinate that. And the theme that she went with was like tragic love. So like Romeo and Juliet, or Titanic, or I think John F. Kennedy Jr., I believe, was one of the, or John F. Kennedy was one of the ones, I think that's one of the scenes you see is him being killed in Dallas. And so her boss is like, watches it, and she's like, then she sees news about the serial killer, who's been a serial killer now for like, this is like year number 3, so there's some background there where they killed people in a couple cities on the East Coast, and now they're in Seattle, which is where this movie takes place. And she's like, whose bright idea was it to have this ad campaign about lovers dying on Valentine's Day when there's a killer out there killing lovers on Valentine's Day? And she's like, well, she's like, I don't want to hear it. I brought in a consultant to get things back on track, and well, it's Jay. So then they go to dinner, and she thinks that Jay's just hitting on her, and Jay is kind of hitting on her. But she's finally just like, look, it's all a sham, love's a sham, one of you is going to die or cheat or something. And obviously she's speaking from a place of, she's been hurt, and she's taken out on Jay. And so they're leaving, but then they run into her ex coming in. And so then she pretends like they're together, and they kiss and everything, and that's when the killer spots them and decides that that's the couple he's going after. So yeah, so the rest of the movie is them trying to evade the killer and convince the police that for a brief moment they think Jay's the killer, and it's her trying to convince them that no, he's not the killer, and then the police being ineffective at stopping the killer, and various other things happen. But overall, like I said, the kills some of them are fairly gruesome. At one point, the couple leads them leads the killer to a drive-in movie theater. It's like Valentine's Day, so they're all couples. And he just goes through just chopping people up right and left and shooting with his arrows and everything else. So, yeah. And so well, the movie gets its name because the killer's wearing a mask where the eyes are heart-shaped, with the whole motif of killing people on Valentine's Day and everything. So, yeah. Overall, I think it's an interesting design on the killer. Kills are very gruesome. This is definitely an R-rated movie. The kills, language. There's no sex in the movie. There is some visually, some sex jokes that have a visual component. At least one involves some sex toys. And so, yeah, this is not a kid's movie by any stretch of the imagination. Now, you could probably watch it and you could probably screen out the really gruesome kills because there's really only, I want to say 3 that are more than just like, oh, that person got stabbed or shot with an arrow and falls off screen. Where they kind of linger on the shot and, really go into the gruesome details. But yeah, overall, I thought the movie was very entertaining. Not like the greatest horror movie ever or anything. It's probably on the better end of slashers, but there could also be some recency bias because I did just watch it. And overall, I felt like I was entertained. Some other, like if I watched it a couple more times, I might spot some things that are just like, I don't know about that. I mean, overall, it's a pretty solid 7, maybe 7.5. But it's pretty solid 7. A few twists and turns at the end. Like I said, I'm not going to go into all that though, because it's a pretty new movie, so I don't want to really spoil it. But yeah, overall, if you like slasher movies, it's worth a watch. If you liked like Totally Killer, or like the Fear Street movies, just imagine those, but like instead of teenagers, we're dealing with like mid to late 20-somethings, but a similar level of like some gruesome kills, but also like some funny moments and just just the plot with funny things happening. Yeah, it actually compares quite a bit to. I just watched Fear Street Prom Night. I think it's Prom Night or Prom Queen. Very similar tones to the movies. Obviously serious things are happening, but also some things kind of funny are happening too. So, in fact, the Fear Street movie, I told my nephew because he wanted to see it and this movie. The Fear Street movie is definitely just like Mean Girls, except people are also being violently murdered. So, yeah, there'll be a review for that coming soon too, but I'm not going to be recording that tonight. So anyway, like I said, if you like slashers, if you like horror comedies, horror romantic comedy, definitely check this one out. It's on Netflix right now. This is early June 2025, so worth checking out. But yeah, that's all I've got to say on this one. So let me know what you think down in the comments. Did you see this while it's in theaters? Have you watched it now it's on Netflix? Do you like these kinds of movies? Anything like that? Like, share, subscribe if you liked what you saw here. Sharing, commenting, things that help us grow the channel. We always appreciate it. And subscribing, well, that's the name of the game here on YouTube. But yeah, that's all I've got to say on this one. So be seeing you folks later.